Welcome back to my channel. I'm Elaine and today I'm going to show you how you can use Cloudflow to export the list of users you shared your Canvas app with. Let's get started. So you might be wondering why you need to export out the list of users you shared your Canvas app with. Well, what happened is I encountered a scenario where I need to remove the list of users from the app and add them back in later on because there is no way to unpublish an app at the moment. So if you don't want the user to access the app, you actually have to remove them, and later on if they want to access the app again, you have to add them back in. But how would you know which users you have given access to previously and what permission you've given them access to? Well, it's simple if you just have like 5 users or 10 users, but what if you have like 15 users or 25 users or 100 users? It's going to be really hard to manually write it down onto the Excel file and then keep it and come back to it, because at the moment there is no one button click where you can just say export and get out the list of the shared user. So there's a few ways at the moment how you can do it. One way is to use PowerShell, but I found that using PowerShell is not very citizen developer friendly. So I tried to find an alternative and I found that you can use Flow to do it. So let me show you now how to do that. It's really simple. We can actually do it in just a few steps. Firstly, log into your Power Automate environment. Now make sure that the login that you use for your Power Automate is the same one as the one you use for your Power Apps environment. Here, I'm going to click an instant Cloudflow because I'm going to trigger it manually. It's not automated. So I'm just going to click on this one and I'm just going to give it a name. And we're just gonna select manual trigger flow. If you want to trigger it via Power Apps, you can click Power Apps, but for this demo, I'm just gonna do it using the flow itself. I'm just gonna trigger it using the flow. So now you got this manually triggered flow, so you don't need to add an input. Next step, what we need to do is we need to first initialize the app ID because this is manually triggered, so it's manual, like everything is manual. You gotta get the app ID and you gotta pass in and tell the flow to get the user for this particular ID. So what we do is we're gonna call initialize. So we should have this initialize variable. And I'm just gonna call this app ID. So every Canvas app that you build have a specific ID that will be in a string. Now what you need to do is you need to go back to your Power Apps to get the app ID. So how do I reach here, right? I'll probably just come back here just to show you. So I want to provide them the app ID for this multilingual Twitter app because I want to get the shared users for this app. So what I do is I click on this 3 dot here and I go to details, and here I get the app ID. So I'm just going to copy this and then I'll go to the flow and I'll put in under the value. Now we initialize the app ID already. What I need to do now is to pass the app ID to the command that will get the list of users. So in Power Automate, there's a lot of Power Apps command that you can use. One of it would be to get the role assignment. Let's first search for Power Automate makers, and then there should be one that says get app role assignment or something along that line. Oh, here you are. So get app role assignments. Even though it says get app role assignments, what it does is you can get all the information pertaining to the users that has been shared that app to. So you could get the name, you could get the email address, you can also get the permission of the particular user that you have assigned to. So now get app assignment, and over here it asks for the Power App name. That is actually the app ID. So we have in the previous step initialize the app ID, so I just need to call app ID over here. Now you have get the information, that is the input. Now we need an output, right? So for the output, we want to store it somewhere. In this case, I'll just store it in an Excel file that I put in OneDrive. So before I go to the next step here, I'll go to my OneDrive and I'll actually create an Excel file. So I have my OneDrive open. Okay, I'll just create a Excel over here, Excel workbook. So I'll create a table. It has to be a table. So now I'll just go to insert. So I want to have 3 columns. I want a name, email address, and permission. So I'll come here and then create a table. And I think I need to rename. Yep, so I'll rename the table. I'll just call it app users. And I'll name the header as well. So this will be name. Here I would have email. And the third column is the permission that's been assigned to the user. Okay, so that's saved already. I want to change the name. Instead of book 1, I'll just call it Canvas Apps Users, and I'll store it in this folder. Alright, so now that we have this workbook already, we'll come back to our Power Automate. And in this next step, we'll run a for each, because we want to pick up every line. We'll pick up the list that's been extracted and write it back line by line onto the Excel workbook. So what we do is we come here and we do a for each so that it reads through every row. Oh, it's actually applied to each. So apply to each, and then the output of this would be the value. So all this will be stored in this value field. So you call the value. And now that I already have the function to read through every line. I want to write each of these line back into the Excel. So now on the action, I'll need to look for Excel online for OneDrive. I think this is OneDrive. And then I want to create a row. So I'll look for create I'll use the update a row or add a row. So here's the add a row, and then just need to sign in. Oh, I think that is business. It's not personal. Let's just delete this. And we'll add it again, no worries. So Excel because I'm using my business account. So this is the business, and then same thing, it should be something called create a row. Or add a row probably. Yeah, add a row. Okay, so as you can see, it's already signed in because I just signed in to create the Excel file, right? So now we just need to select the location. There's OneDrive for business. So if you're using your personal one, then select OneDrive personal. And then for the document library, I'll just select OneDrive. Now you have to select your file, the location. So I had it stored in Power Apps User, and my file name is Canvas Apps User, so I'll just select that. And then the table is the name of the table. That's why you need to create a table. If you don't create a table, then you won't be able to get the table name. So if you left it in default, it'll probably call table 1. But if you don't create a table, then it couldn't write it back. So for now, mine is called app user. So I select app user. And then we have the name, and we have to map it back, right, to the output. So the name, I will map it to name. So I think name is, the display name. Let's try display name. And then email would be the email field, and permission, that would be the row name. So now we just save this, and I always say run a flow checker just to make sure it's all fine, all good. So now finger crossed it works. Let's test it. So we'll trigger it manually. Like I say, you can always build it from the app to trigger from the app, so you can trigger from Power Apps. But in this case, I'll just I'll just trigger it from Flow. So now I just run the flow, and as you can see, it's waiting here because it's trying to write every line. Oh, that is done. So now first let's go to our app first, okay? So on our app, I've shared it with 2 users, which is Elaine and Jess. So I expect these 2 users to be written back into the Excel file with the email address and the permission. So I'll go back to the OneDrive. Now just open this Canvas app. There you go. So Elaine is the owner and Jessica is the user. The permission is CanView. So that's how easy that you can actually export out the list of users using Flow, and you can keep this as a record so that the next time you want to share the app again, or maybe for even just for future auditing, you have a list already. That's all for today. I hope you find it useful and able to implement it in your organization. I also have submitted an idea on the Power Apps forum to request for the Deactivate or Unpublish app function so that you don't need to remove the users manually if you want to stop giving them access to the app. So if you also want this feature, please go and vote for it. I've left the link below on the description section. That's all for now. If you like my content, give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Till next time, bye!